added a seat for new media, and the person in that seat is always called on first, meaning the press room now features figures like Cara Castronova, who works for Lindell TV, an internet news network bankrolled by the My Pillow guy, who asks questions like this.
Will you guys also consider releasing the president's fitness plan? He actually looks healthier than ever before. Healthier than he did 8 years ago, and I'm sure everybody in this room would agree. Is he working out with Bobby Kennedy? And is he eating lots of McDonald's?
That is an actual question a White House reporter asked, and everything about that is unsettling. From the fact she was essentially asking, the president's looking hotter than ever, right? To the absolutely cursed smile of that ghostly twink presence of the business Malfoy hovering behind her. You can all see him too, right? Please tell me you can see him. And when she was asked to spell out her approach to journalism, it didn't go great.
You are a Trump fan, right?
Yes, I'm definitely a supporter of President Trump.
So will you be able to hold him to account then?
I will be able to hold 100% him to account. I'm sure things that will happen that I disagree with, and I have said plenty of times, on record when I disagreed with his
Is there anything so far in this administration you disagree with?
I'm not gonna let me disappoint that for a second. I'm just overwhelmed with how well I perceive things to be going.
What? I'm just overwhelmed with how well I perceive things to be going? That sounds less like what a White House correspondent should be saying to a reporter, more like something you say to an acquaintance at coffee before crying in your car for an hour. And look, stocking the press room with suck-ups would be bad enough, but that's just one of the ways the White House has found to thumb the scale of its coverage. Another has been attempting to weaponize the FCC. Historically, it's at least pretended to be an independent commission, but that is now changing fast under its new chair, Brendan Carr. Trump elevated him to run the commission almost immediately after the election. Carr made no secrets of what he was going to do.
I want to start by expressing my thanks and appreciation again to President Trump and to congratulate him again on his historic election victory. For me, as I go forward, the first thing is to get together with the presidency and make sure that I 100% understand his agenda. After all, his administration is going to be the agenda that he's pushing.
Okay, but that's not what your job is supposed to be. You never want to hear something as obsequious as that coming from someone in a role that's supposed to be independent. For the same reason, you don't want to see an NBA wearing one of the team's uniforms, or a Supreme Court justice flying an insurrection flag outside of his house. Hypothetically, of course, you understand. And Carr does seem deep in the tank for the president. Trump supporters have celebrated this image of him wearing a gold Trump pin, and after the Hollywood Reporter published an article titled "Trump's Media Pitbull is Off the Leash" that included this horrifying picture of Carr as a pitbull, he tweeted it saying, "Woof woof." One past FCC commissioner said, "I'm about as worried as I can be about the future of the FCC. I would say Carr is the most ideological chairman we've ever had and the most political." And he's wasted no time pursuing Trump's agenda. His FCC is now investigating all the major broadcast outlets except for Fox. And Carr's stewardship of the FCC has also been part of a new squeeze Trump's been putting on the networks, with the FCC on one side and lawsuits on the other. Here is how it works. The FCC has the ability to regulate the broadcast licenses of local TV and radio stations. The big networks each own a bunch of those. CBS, for instance, owns all of these. And while the FCC revoking a license is incredibly hard, what it can do is make it very hard for networks to sell those stations, which, given the frequency of media mergers and acquisitions, can be a real problem. So, networks now have that threat hanging over them, while at the same time Trump is applying legal pressure by filing lawsuits to put them on the defensive. It is pretty flagrant. Trump files a lawsuit demanding money, and at the same time his FCC starts making noises about plans to make that company's life unpleasant. So the networks settle in the hopes it'll keep Trump happy and get everyone off their back, and maybe they think twice about the tone of their coverage in the future. Right now, CBS is caught in this exact squeeze, largely arising from a 60-minute segment that aired just before the election featuring an interview with Kamala Harris, which Trump maintains was misleadingly edited. He has sued the network in a lawsuit First Amendment lawyers have called frivolous and dangerous and ridiculous joke. And to understand just how true that is, it's worth looking at the specifics here. Very basic. It involves Harris's answer to a question about Gaza, and here is Trump's version of What happened?
They took Kamala's answer, which was a crazy answer, horrible answer, and they took the whole answer out and they replaced it with something else she said later on in the interview, which wasn't a great answer, but it wasn't like the first one. The first was grossly incompetent. It was weird. And that was fraud and election interference by their news magazine, a big part of CBS News.
Okay, so Trump's theory is that CBS simply replaced Harris's answer to a question to get her to win the presidency, and straight away is that it aired a promo for that 60 Minutes interview on Face the Nation. So CBS aired it. They weren't trying to hide anything, and if you're curious, here are the two versions. Here is what aired on Face the Nation.
It seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
Well, Bill, the work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
That is a pretty shitty answer. It's like you trying to express a thought in English but with French grammar. It sounds like someone just shook her awake and yelled Israel at her. So Trump was not wrong, that was bad. But here's the supposedly much better answer that 60 Minutes aired that night.
It seems that Prime Minister Netanyahu is not listening.
We're not going to stop pursuing what is necessary for the United States to be clear about where we stand on the need for this war to end.
I mean, I guess that sounds slightly more coherent, but they are both fundamentally celebrations of prepositional phrases and the passive voice. In both, she is talking like a high schooler trying to hit the word count. The letter of Scarlet, worn by Hester Prynne in the novel The Scarlet Letter, written by Nathaniel Hawthorne, published in 1850, symbolises shame and punishment symbolically. And the underlying fact is the two answers seem to be broadly saying the same amount of absolute nothing about the same topic, which isn't surprising because, under pressure from the FCC, CBS actually released the full transcript of the interview. It turns out this is her full answer to the question she was asked about Israel. This is what aired on Face the Nation, and this is what aired on 60 Minutes. So the network didn't take her whole answer out and replace it with something from later in the interview, as Trump claimed. They basically aired both halves of a single answer, and that sort of editing decision for time or clarity happens on TV all the time. As someone pointed out, early last year, Fox actually massaged a Trump interview because in the version that they initially aired, this was the exchange.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah.
Okay then. That is a firm, unequivocal answer. And at that point, they cut away to the next question. But when they later aired a longer clip from that interview, it became clear that his full answer played out a little differently.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah. All right, I guess I would. I think that less so because, you don't know. You don't want to affect people's lives if it's phony stuff in there because there's a lot of phony stuff in that whole world.
Yeah, in one version, Trump's answer was edited down, and people who saw that missed out on the fuller context of watching his thought process go in real time from, of course, we should absolutely release the files. People deserve to know the truth. To, oh wait, you mean that Epstein? To, oh yeah, you can't believe everything that you read about people. The point is, CBS engaged in a pretty standard practice of editing an interview for length and clarity. Nevertheless, Trump sued them for fraud, demanding $20 billion in damages. And CBS initially fought back, calling the claims completely without merit, and saying that they intended to vigorously defend against the lawsuit, which makes sense, as legal experts have called it baseless and an easy victory for CBS. But here's the thing. While that lawsuit was going on, the FCC Paramount is currently in the middle of a massive merger with Skydance Media. And as I mentioned earlier, transferring its broadcast licenses will require FCC approval, and it can sit on that approval indefinitely. That may well be why Shari Redstone, Paramount's controlling shareholder, has said she favours settling the case. She and Paramount have also apparently indicated to 60 Minutes they were very interested to know the segments the show was going to be running on Trump for the rest of the season, which feels like a big overstep. Bill Owens, the head of 60 Minutes, actually resigned in the wake of that, saying it had become clear he would not be allowed to make independent decisions at the show, all of which makes it pretty galling that just a few years ago, Shari Redstone chaired an event for CPJ, the group that defends press press freedom around the world and had the nerve to position herself as a defender of the free press.
It is truly an honor to be here representing Paramount Global and the thousands of hardworking journalists at CBS News who fight every day for the freedom and integrity of the press. The honorees in this room are living embodiments of these values. They remind us that press freedom is never guaranteed, that it must constantly be defended, and that it often comes at a significant cost, both personal and professional.
Wow, powerful words about the need to defend press freedom at any cost. From someone who seemed to stop doing that as soon as there was a financial one to her. And that kind of undercuts the strength of her statement there. Imagine FDR saying the only thing we have to fear is fear itself, only to flip the fuck out after he saw a bug. It undermines his point. And maybe Redstone's calculating that if she just gives Trump what he wants now, he'll back down. But I seriously doubt that. Just look at what happened to ABC. They settled a defamation lawsuit with Trump in December over how George Stephanopoulos characterized the E. Jean Carroll verdict, paying $15 million to Trump's private foundation for his presidential museum, despite experts saying ABC might well have won at trial. But since then, Carson FCC has pushed ABC for more concessions, like threatening its broadcast license over Disney's DEI practices. And look, as bad as these examples are, you at least might already be aware of them. But there are fights happening at the local level that aren't getting nearly the same degree of attention, but that are just as worrying. Take a look at what Cars FCC is doing to KCBS, a San Francisco radio station. Very basically, on the afternoon of January 26th, a local community group made this post to Facebook concerning ICE agents being spotted in the area. A city council member also posted about the ICE activities. Around 3:40 p.m., the community group posted that ICE had left, and around 2 hours after that, KCBS ran a story about it in the classic sedate tone of every radio news broadcast ever.
San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan and Councilmember Peter Ortiz confirmed today that U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents are currently carrying out an operation on the east side of town. The county's response network says agents in San Jose were in unmarked vehicles, including a black Dodge Durango, a gray Nissan Maxima, and white Nissan truck. ICE agents were also reported outside a residence on South White and Tully roads, and officers were reportedly at the target on King and Story roads.
Okay, first, that is a remarkably soothing voice for a news report describing something as alarming as ICE agents in unmarked vehicles. It's like listening to a YouTube video titled Lo-Fi Sounds of a Man Getting Mauled by a Tiger to relax/study to. But crucially, that report's also pretty basic. ICE was in the community, community groups and government officials were talking about it, and local news covered it. That radio station was actually one of several outlets that covered it around the same time. Here it is on the 6 o'clock news on NBC, which actually showed images of the Carson agency in question, and here's the same footage being aired on Telemundo. But it was the radio report that got the attention of a right-wing activist who pointed out that KCBS was owned by George Soros' investment firm and claimed that it had put ICE agents at serious risk while an operation was ongoing, which it very much did not. Nevertheless, that complaint made its way to Brendan Carr, who later got himself in front of a camera to say this.
So what happened was you had ICE agents undercover doing operations in East San Jose and part of the town known for violent gang activity. You had this radio station broadcasting the live location, identifying the unmarked vehicles that they were in. So we have sent a letter of inquiry, a formal investigation into that matter, and they have just a matter of days left to respond to that inquiry and explain how this could possibly be consistent with their public interest obligations.
What are you talking about? Covering stories like that is literally the whole point of local news radio. That and delivering the driest imaginable ad read for a local deck staining company. Now, legal scholars will tell you this FCC investigation is also meritless. As one First Amendment expert put it, law enforcement operations, immigration or otherwise, are matters of public interest. So if it comes to a court case and KCBS chooses to fight, it will almost certainly win. But it's a little worrying that so